So good morning. Good morning,
Good morning,
viewers and
Raji.
listeners. Welcome back to this Leaders and Libraries event. We have had many leaders, and today we have yet another person, Shachi Kaul, Head of Learning and Development, RBL Bank. Let me introduce her to all of you. I'll start before the designation. I'll talk about something that really caught my attention in her pages. She's a storyteller and a Commonwealth Storyteller Award winner, which is such a fabulous thing. And I love when it comes to storytelling, especially people from the learning and development space. That's what we do. She's on multiple forums as guest speakers, a certified coach, and leads learning and development for RBL Bank. When I spoke to her about this book-based event, she just embraced it with both the hands because she's also a voracious reader, and book was a powerful connect between me and her. So thank you, Sachi, for joining the force and accepting the invitation. Welcome on board.
Thank you, Rajiv. It's a pleasure to be here. And I've seen you, crystallize the idea and then bring it to the front. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to have you as well. So let's get started. And I'm not going to reveal the book now. It's going to get revealed in a moment. But it's a powerful book, and I want to tell you that first time this book has been picked up by you, and I was waiting. And koi to kitab ko le, and it was lovely to have this book because I had not finished this book, and I need to admit this. I had finished some 3/4 of it, and कुछ कारण से रह गया था. So when you picked up, ऐसे let me go back and finish the book. तो मैं वापस जाके पहले से फिर पढ़ा, and I finished the entire book. So thank you for helping me finish one more book in my list of books. Right? Super. Let me have.
You're my first convert then.
First convert.
You're
Absolutely.
my first convert.
Absolutely. Very rightly said. So tell me, Chachi, how and when the romance with books and association with books started? How early was it?
Rajiv, you've made me look very far back into history, and I don't want to reveal my age, but I was actually trying to pinpoint to the moment when books came to me. Okay, and the discovery for me was that actually I came into the books very late.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the moment which comes back to me actually is my library in my high school.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it used to be a drag to go and enjoy the library hour, right? Because it was so boring, it was not activity related, you had to sit down. And then what comes to my mind when I start thinking about when books came to me was the fact that suddenly a transition happened and that library hour became magical.
Lovely.
And I started enjoying it. And this is, I think I was in class 8 at that time. And one of the hooks that got me at that time was there was a locked cupboard in the library.
Okay.
It was reserved for senior students. And by God, I wanted to be a senior student, and I, hated the fact that, time goes by so slowly, and I wanted to get into that
Curiosity.
Yeah, curiosity. And that's how books came to me. It's not as if my parents did not encourage me, but from my heart, the books came to me at that time.
Beautiful. Do you remember which was the character or which book or comic kind of became the biggest puller and the library became magical? Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course I remember. So I started with Nancy Drew. Okay, I have a brother and a sister, and my brother's more of a reader, and they were hardy boys all along in the house, right?
Correct.
And I used to try to read them, and they just never resonated with me. Till I realized this nice detective figure of Nancy Drew, and she could just solve everything.
Yeah.
And I said, my God, this speaks to me. So I went through that's how it started, really.
So beautiful. I mean, आज के generation में मुझे पता नहीं, honestly, I have to check this out, but we started with Enid Blyton, right? What a impact Enid Blyton had on us, isn't it? Famous Five, Hardy Boy, beautiful. Yeah. In fact, it's so crazy that I used to live in a railway colony during those days, and we had friends, and we would actually go and imitate that story as 5 friends and a dog and do all the stuff like Famous Five. Fun it used to be.
Yeah, so to me, Enid Blyton happened after Nancy Drew. So I read a few Nancy Drews, and somebody suggested, hey, there's Enid Blyton. And when I went to that, one of my most fascinating characters, like you were saying, is, Timothy became something that you wanted to have because it was so important to have a dog if
Correct.
you wanted to do something in life,
I
right?
know.
So that's
Somebody has to sniff
fascinating.
around, find things for you. How lovely. They made lovely days, isn't it? Beautiful. Sometimes I think probably our childhood was far better interesting than the boys and girls who are stuck to the systems and Netflixes and PS4s of the world. But I don't want to sound generalizing before we get started.
No, Rajiv. I have a view on that actually. Actually, I think this is more about storytelling. This is more about the power of stories than really about books or the or the medium that the children these days are going for. I think from time immemorial, we swap stories, right? In
Absolutely.
the olden days, people would sit around a fire, swap tales, right? And if you look at it, it's all about trading
Yeah.
information about survival,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And nothing's changed now, especially if you look at the non-fiction category. It's the proverbial people sitting around a fire, which might be miles away, but
Correct.
yet somebody is swapping a lesson which can help you survive, right?
Yeah.
Which is giving you some tips and tricks.
Yeah. And we have given it a name called Fireside Chat as well.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, the latest Man Ki Baat by Narendra Modi ji was on the importance of storytelling. He in fact brought three, four people across the country and spoke to them. They shared about how they are sharing stories and making differences in children's life. And he profoundly drove this point in Man Ki Baat this time, saying, "Parents and relatives at home, please sit with your children on weekends,
Hmm.
narrate stories, pick up some incident of your life, pick up दादा दादी की कहानी बताइए, महाभारत mythology की कहानी बताइए, make it interesting, साथ में खाना खाइए, do that. It's so important for children to really develop them. So I thought that's what we're talking about today. So lovely, lovely,
Exactly.
fantastic, super. So tell me, Nancy Drew se shuru hoke, we are talking about this book that's going to be revealed in a moment. How did Shachi as a reader evolve into Shachi as a leader? How did this reader to leader transition happen?
Yeah. And Rajiv, I grew up with tales of valor, with tales of courage, with tales of great people, right? Whether it was great sportsmen, whether it was great world leaders,
Mm,
whether they were great artists, right? And so, stepping into my adult life, I had this outline of a leader,
mm,
outline of a great person. Let's just put it this way right now. There was no leadership as a concept growing up, but there was this outline of what greatness means, right? And when I stepped into a more, started transitioning into a more professional setup,
mm,
um, there was this book, right,
mm,
by Ayn Rand.
mm,
You know what I'm talking about, The Fountainhead, right?
mm, mm.
And this character of Howard Roark.
Yeah. Oh my
Mm.
God. Thanks for reminding me. I read it so many years back.
Yeah. So this character of Howard Roark sort of became the sponge for
Mm,
everything that you needed to be if
correct.
you needed to exert
Yeah.
influence, power, if you needed to change anything, right?
Yeah.
And this Howard Roark space is what was imprinted in my mind. Um, so I know one thing about myself now when I look back on why there was this great pull for this character is that I've always believed I've always been more in sync with the fact that influence comes from expertise,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
So that was the embodiment of this, and many Jeffrey Archer books, where all talk about great people
Correct.
who do great things. I mean, George Mallory
Yeah.
climbing the Everest, right?
Yeah.
All those stories are there. So this is how my evolution happened because I never started with nonfiction. I started with fiction. I started
Mm,
with stories, which we just
mm,
spoke about, right?
mm, mm,
And got this shape of a leader imprinted in my mind. We
mm.
started filling up gradually with different things. And then when I became a professional, I realized that, um, this is a different world. This is not where you can be Howard Roark and, just
Correct.
create something out of nothing. You worked with people, you worked with relationships, you worked in a social setup.
Mm,
And this is when I dived into management texts, right? I started looking at other leadership theories apart from the great man theory,
mm,
which had drawn me in initially.
mm.
And this sort of balance came into me. saying, look, this is what you get pulled to, the fact that expertise rules, but the real world also requires you to have a balance of what you do with people,
Yeah.
right? And that was a single biggest realization for me as I transitioned and moved into my journey as leader. And I'm still working at it, chipping away at it every day.
Lovely, lovely. In fact, this transition from fiction to management, then to biographies, autobiographies, and then some self-help, and then today I have some spiritual books also lying around me on my table. So I've got something which I'm currently reading. It's called 365 Days of Inspiration by Napoleon Hill. It's a lovely book which has got nothing but powerful quotations. Right?
Beautiful, yeah.
It's a lovely book. I'm just trying to think that month and a half back, somebody had posted about Ruskin Bond. I suddenly thought how Ruskin Bond had a great impact on me in my own evolution as a reader. And today, when I go back, I think his was stories, but it had tremendous leadership lessons that I can really relate to now. During those days, it was only the element of fun, but today I can really relate to concepts in leadership. My perspective of looking at Ruskin Bond and respect for him has moved up from just being a fiction author to somebody who can give you life lessons. Yeah. So from that angle, the book that you have picked up today, The Art of Possibility, is a fabulous book, and Xander is marvelous. He's just marvelous. I mean, all respects to Ben, and the character is so lovely. The way he narrates, I think it's superb. Tell me, among all the books, why Art of Possibility was picked by you as one of the most inspiring books?
Look, there are certain, I'll answer this in two ways. One is about the book, and one is about me and my plea for the book, right? The book is immensely readable, like you know from your own experience, right? It's narrated in a beautiful musical manner. He's a conductor himself, right? His wife Rosamond is a therapist.
Yeah.
He's a conductor of the symphonies. So the book makes for light reading, right? And I just told you that I moved from fiction to non-fiction, little bit reluctant. This made easy reading. The name itself, the art of possibility, right, does fill you up with possibility that this could be something that you can master, right? Because it says it's the art of possibility, right? Um, so the book is like a spa. It takes you away from your day-to-day considerations.
I
It
love
puts
the
you
way
in a
you put
nice
that.
place. Yeah, it's exactly like the spa. The color is yellow, right?
Yeah.
Takes you into that yellow space. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it takes you into that space where you can sort of shed off
Yeah.
skin that you wear in every day, the skin which is perpetuated in our everyday dealing of business,
Correct.
which is about haste, which is about achievement, which is about competition. And it takes you inside yourself to say, okay, at a fundamental level, you human, what is it that matters to you?
Correct.
Yeah, and that's about the book. The reason why it spoke so much to me, and to such an extent that I suggested it to you, Raji, was, I read this book for the first time in 2006, probably 2007. Yeah, I made a transition from being a full-time business manager, an operations manager, and I was moving into education and training, right? Working more with people. So from results to results in the future, I had to now empower results in people. And I didn't have the time to shift gears really between these two roles that I was doing. And when I went to this book, I was seeking some answers. I was looking for alternative ways. I was looking at how do I now move from one gear to the other, right? And when this book came and when I read it, it gave me an alternative way to
Fantastic.
it helped me embody, like what this is what books do, right? They help you see somebody else's perspective. They help you embody that perspective in a very safe environment. And you say, okay, I think probably try this out, and maybe this will work for me, and maybe it'll make me happier, and maybe it'll make me more effective. And this is what the book did to me.
Oh, lovely.
And on a lighter note, I would say maybe it saved a few trainees as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. It's such a lovely thing that transition you're seeking answers in the book kind of answered if not all, but many of your questions in your head, right? Which is what I keep telling people in workshops and intervention, that this is not about giving you a culture of reading and make you a reader. That's not my work. My work is to make you understand that these are not the Tinkles and Chanda Mamas of the world. They are books written by authors where they have got tools and techniques and acronyms and methods and templates that you can actually pick and apply, and you'll see the benefit of it. इतने सालों का
Absolutely.
इतने सालों का रिसर्च डन बाय द ऑथर, इसको डिस्टिल करके आपको इतने आसान से तरह उठा के यूज करना आपको. That's all you have to do,
Yes.
isn't
Yeah.
it? And once you do it, you'll realize the benefit of what the author is saying and the power of the tools. Beautiful, lovely. So we are going to speak on a couple of concepts on this book. We need a whole day to actually dissect this book, but we will talk about a couple of powerful things. So tell me your interpretation of this world of measurement on one side and stepping into the universe of possibility. And both of us understand the importance of measurement, understand the importance of metrics and ROI and all that regular corporate gyan. How do you see these two? And why do you appreciate what Xander is saying? Moving from measurement to art of possibility, or the universe of possibility.
Yeah. So, I know there'll be people viewing us, and I do want to put this out there upfront. This is a book on positive psychology, right? Much in the fashion, I mean, the great movement started by Martin Seligman, right? And some of the more recent works that people would know about from Sean Aker, or on being positive. So one has to suspend a little bit of judgment to take in what Rajiv, you and I are talking today. Otherwise, people will think we are cuckoo. We are far away from reality, and we're just going on talking about some alternate universe, which
Right.
is exactly what Xanders speak about, right? Speak about the fact that we have the choice to inhabit a world like you already gave it out, a world of measurement that we live in, right? Where there are grades, where there are targets, where there are comparisons, where
Correct.
there's competitiveness, right?
Correct.
Or we can live in the world of possibility. Okay, the world of possibility to him is where there's a pie and you take a piece of the pie. He narrates that in his book, right? Uh, Believing that the pie is so big that everybody can have a piece, and every time everybody has a piece, pie becomes whole again,
Yeah.
right? And in no way does he shun the fact that you have to achieve something.
Yeah.
He runs orchestras, right? He's achieved. He's acclaimed.
Correct.
This kind of philosophy.
Yeah.
He's a successful man, so he's not asking us to make a choice between success and happiness. And
Yeah.
that's the key point that people need to understand when
Correct.
when you're talking about positive psychology. The choice is really not being between successful or being happy,
Yeah.
because that's easy.
Yeah.
This is about choosing the route to happiness, which will lead to success, right? So that's the difference that he makes. In the world of possibility, you ask yourself, and he says that, I hope I'm quoting correctly, that you ask yourself, what is it that I've not thought of already? What I may be missing, and therefore, what is it that I can invent?
Yeah.
He talks about the fact that everything's invented. So why not invent a narrative which is generative, which gives you life?
Yeah.
Why choose to live in a narrative
Yeah.
which brings pulls you down, and you go into a downward spiral?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Makes sense. This narrative is nothing but visualization of the future, right? It is nothing but creating those new movies, moving away from the old movies in the head that we keep playing in a loop. We come out of that and create something. It's very interesting because I remember many, many years back, me and the family, we had a dream to have a house with a garden in a city like Bangalore. And I said, "Ek din banayenge." So we kind of visualized that and started working towards it. And you will not believe, after 4.5 years of the dream, we ended up having a house with a private garden in Bangalore.
Wow.
So I could completely relate what Xander is saying, the art of possibility. It is just about those narratives, which will also have its own measurements. But it's about taking one step forward. Beautiful. Fantastic. So how has this helped you as a successful leader? How have you used it?
So, Rajiv, this was a difficult lesson for me to take. Right, I was a disbeliever.
Okay.
Okay, and I hope there are many disbelievers who sort of see us and hear us talk about this thing.
Yeah.
And I read this book as a disbeliever, and I said, really, is it so simple? Right? This is just this is just some gimmick.
Yeah.
This book is just a gimmick, and it's just trying to sell you something. But then another parallel story is about Alice falling down the rabbit hole, right? Alice is a life, and then she falls through the rabbit hole, and then she discovers another life, right? And I talked to myself and I said, why not live it for some time? Why not give it a trial, right? And the best part about this book is that, like you said, books give you the tips and they tell you how to do this, right? And therefore, there is, I actually started, this is honest, I started with just one practice from this book,
Okay.
which is called giving an A.
Lovely.
Okay. And what Xander has described is that why not give everybody an A right at the start? Okay, so he describes his class and he follows this practice that anybody who comes and joins his music classes, he tells them to write an essay where they have to say why are they getting an A at the end of the course after a year.
Yeah.
Okay, and every student has to write that down, and obviously you know what's happening there. You're thinking positively and you're projecting yourself, and therefore you embody, and then therefore you live those things that you're sort of making a promise to yourself. But I found this practice amazing because when you give somebody an A, what you've done is you've suspended judgment.
Correct.
You're not saying whether he's better or he's worse off, or he's speaking like this or not speaking like this, or this is what he's after. You've created a space, right? You've created a space for that person to present themselves as they are and reach their own potential.
Correct.
And because I was making that transition to being an educator and have been since then, this is a very powerful lesson for me personally.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It creates such a safe environment of trust in that individual to do what he or she wants to do because there's an A already given, isn't it?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is so
absolutely,
empowering.
Rajiv. Yeah, I read this at that time, I said 2007, 2006 or 8, something like that. And more recently, this concept of holding space is being spoken about quite a bit, right? You hold a safe space for people as seniors, as leaders, as coaches. That's a primary responsibility, to create that space for people where they can be, where they can come in, So very powerful book, and I put it into practice all the time. I go off center and then I pull myself back and I say, this is what I want to be. This is how I want to be, and therefore I'm going to practice this.
Absolutely. I mean, this is such a powerful concept. It just gives so much of opportunity for people to find what they want in themselves, right? Not trying to ape to become somebody else. It kind of opens up spaces for individuals. So I think Xander said it very beautifully many years back, and now we're talking about a couple of these things as leadership concepts that needs to be created. Lovely, lovely. So I'm happy that you said we need to talk about giving an A as your favorite, and you highlighted about that. Tell me, I'm going to ask you about the next one, which was very interesting for me, and I've written it here. He says you need to be a contribution or a contributing member. How did you reinvent yourself from just Shachi as an individual to the contribution or the contributor? How did this happen? And when this happened, you would have declared this to the world through your words, through your behaviors, and the change that the environment would have seen in you. What happened? How did it help you?
This is giving me a little bit of goosebumps. So I hope it's okay to admit that, right? Because it's deeply personal. But let me start with the story that he narrates in the book at the start of this chapter, which many of us have heard before, but it's important to know when he talks about the contribution, what does he mean? So he narrates the story of a woman who's on a seashore, and a lot of starfish have got washed on the sand. This woman is picking up one starfish at a time and throwing it back into the ocean, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard that
Yeah, yeah.
story. Right? And a man passes by and asks her, why are you doing this? Because you can't save all the starfishes. There's so many who've got washed on the shore. And she smiles. Of course, he narrates it more beautifully, right? She smiles and she says, but it makes a difference to this one.
Correct.
Right? That's the heart of being a contribution, right? In every practice in this book, Xander's talk about Xanders are actually taking us on to first say, where do we think the choices are? What do we think that the choices are? And are those really choices to make? Or is actually the choice something else? So here they're talking about, this is not about success versus failure. Because if you were to look from the man's eye, this woman is a failure, right?
Correct.
But if you look at her from her eyes, she's a roaring success because she would count it in the numbers that she saved. The man would count it from the numbers that have not got saved, right?
Beautiful.
And being a contribution speaks about exactly this. It says, look at what you can do, right? Rajiv, I'm still on this journey. You asked me what did I do about this and how did I declare my intent, etc. All of us get caught up in the accoutrements of life, right? Title, um, office, big house with a garden, maybe, and many such things, big car and stuff like that. So do I. So does everybody, right? I'm sure people do. But then this practice gives you pause. This you look at the work of so I ask myself this question. Okay, let me share this. I ask myself this question frequently. I say, if Bill Gates and Mr. Premji have made so much money, they don't need to work, right? In fact, they have so much money they don't know how to give it away. Then why do they get up and step out and still do some work every day? Yeah. And the answer which comes to me, Rajiv, is the fact that their contribution is not over.
Absolutely.
And I really hope that I can make that journey. I really, really hope. This is a manifesto for myself, right? I really hope I can make that journey where I contribute even more.
Absolutely. I think it makes tremendous sense when you took the example of Bill Gates. From somebody who brought computers to every desk, it changed the entire world, right? To what he's doing today is creating energy from human feces.
Yes.
Transition. And today he is doing, which is far more nobler. I'm not anywhere reducing the noble cause that he did by getting computers. But for a moment, leave the technology bit there. Today is about contributing to mankind, to human beings, to the planet. And he wants to do that till he is alive. How could I now contribute to the planet? So I think coming back to you from Bill Gates, you also have been contributing in your own journey, have been doing it. It is just that I think as we are maturing, becoming the far better version of ourselves, our definition of contribution keeps just evolving and evolving and evolving, isn't it? So I think it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Such a powerful thing, isn't it? I know I like that which you said, which all of us know, but it just hit a chord that the man is counting how many starfish are left, and she's counting how many has been thrown back into the sea. What a powerful transition in your own head. And that needle shift can make a huge change.
Yeah. And can't you see like a domino, everything falling into place? You choose happiness versus being sad. And therefore, at the heart of this book, the art of possibility is just that the choices you think you're making are actually not the choices you need to be making at all.
Yeah. You're right. Beautiful, lovely. What a nice way to talk about this. So I'm going to ask you the next one. He's a conductor himself. So he says it's important for all of us to be a silent conductor. Now, in a corporate world where we need to be boisterous, we need to be putting our voice out there, we have to be the extrovert, we need to be having that or rather, okay, I'm going to contribute now, adding value as a leader. How the hell does somebody be a silent contributor? It's tough. It's really tough. And what will be your advice, Shachi, based on your experience to the budding leaders? They're all aggressive. They're all aspirational. They want to rear and do something. You're asking them, be a silent. Xander बोल देगा वो सबके करके चला गया है तो he's reached at that age. But it's tough for a 30, 33, 35-year-old young boy or a girl to be that, right? How do you do that?
Yeah. So look, there is a bit of a discernment we need to build into a chat here, right? What I mean by that is that being a silent conductor, one, you have to be, there's only one conductor in the orchestra.
Correct.
Right? So if you are, first you have to be in that position where you're conducting something. Then being a silent conductor works. But I definitely don't want to, derail 20, 30-year-old people who might actually be in supervisory positions, but not conducting. They're a little far away from conducting, right?
Yeah.
So that's the disclaimer that I want to put out there. That first assess what position you are in. If you're really conducting something, then apply these lessons to yourself, right? But if you're not, then pick up threads, build that muscle so that you can do more and more, because we transition every day from being, supervisory to managerial to leader, to maybe, grades, maybe being conductor. So pick up, build that muscle. That muscle is as important to be built as the muscle of, probably expertise or leadership skills or stuff like that. So one is that. He narrates a very good story of a conductor actually. Just lightening things up here. He says, this conductor thing is that, he says while the conductor doesn't do anything except, doesn't play a single instrument in the orchestra, his picture is there on the cover, but he's like the big boss, right? And when you acquire that status and when you acquire that followership, everybody's, even more so in an orchestra where everybody's just literally waiting for your wand, to strike before they play something. You can gain a little bit of a self-importance, right? And you feel that my way is the highway, my way is the only way. I've done it. I know it. I can accelerate things. There may be many reasons why one does that. But you get self-importance. You get caught up in yourself. You take yourself too seriously.
Naturally.
Right? And the story he narrates is, for example, of a conductor, a great conductor. I don't remember the name, who sort of rushed out of a place and went into a taxi and said, hurry, let's go. And the taxi driver said, where to? He said, need me everywhere. And that brings home the point that, look, you're not that important. There are other ideas, there are other minds. And this is a matter of training, Rajiv. Okay, we all want to contribute, right? We all want to talk, we all want to share what we've learned. It's all with good intent. But like I said, reminding yourself what position are you in and when should you disengage from what aspect of what you consider to be leadership or managerial is important.
Lovely. Do you also somewhere telling the budding leaders and the young minds that the moment they come to this position or a designation called first time managers, they should start building this muscle within themselves?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because in everyday life, there may be certain projects, certain teams that you're working with. You can give more autonomy. Where you can, when I say disengage, what I mean is you can move back a little bit and let them take their own time. Again, create that space. They give themselves the time to come up with things their own way, very simply. That's what this is all about.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking the temptation that leaders have and the tendency to add value is so pushing us from inside, isn't it? And it just pops off your mouth and hold you. Like, don't, no, don't come out, don't come out. It doesn't happen, and it is tough. Yeah, it's tough to be the silent conductor, right?
See, that's why he calls them practices, right? You have to
Yeah,
practice them every day.
I agree. It's a skill.
So it's a reminder to yourself every day, because like you said, you'll want to add value, and the intent is very good,
Yeah, yeah.
but it doesn't land that way.
It does, it is. And more so with all the experience, we keep saying this, I know this won't work. I have been there, I've done it. So dangerous.
Absolutely.
Lovely, lovely. Ah, I'm just enjoying. I'm reliving this book as we're talking about it. Thank you for that. It's
You
lovely.
must be in the spa by now, right?
I'm already in the spa. हमारे यहाँ अपार्टमेंट में कुछ कोविड केस ऐसा करके एक्चुअल स्पा को बंद करके रखा है, तो ये स्पा तो चल रहा है, which is very good.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I feel so good to be talking about this book and to remind myself of some of these practices.
Beautiful, beautiful, lovely, lovely. You should have come in a yellow sari. Just go with the color. Lovely, fantastic. So let's move on to the next one. This is a tough one. When I say tough one, this was tough in my own head. It took me a couple of readings to understand, and probably because 21 years of corporate experience, शायद मेरी समझ थोड़ी जल्दी आ गई होगी. But I want you to help the young minds. He talks about practicing being the way things are. For me, it can be definitely misinterpreted and misconstrued as you're asking me to be complacent. You're asking me to take things light. You're asking me to tell you don't be rushy, aram se jao. How does it work here? There's a rat race out there. There's an urgency to reach. आप शुरू करके इतने करते अक्टूबर आते ही आप लोग बोलेंगे मीडिया अप्रेजल लेके आते हो एचआर वाले, फिर फरवरी आया तो एनुअल अप्रेजल लेके आते हो, फिर बोलते हो अभी हम पोटेंशियल कॉन्वर्सेशन भी करवाएंगे. इसके बीच में आदमी के पास टाइम किधर है? And how do you say be the way things are? Give me some interpretation on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so the lessons for me from this practice is about being in the moment, right? I mean, that's very evident that he's talking about the fact that be in the moment. To me, at the deeper level, what he's speaking about is also about the fact that when something happens, you feel a particular way, feel it fully, and then I don't want to say move on because it'll sound very trite, but then become alive to what is happening after that.
Alignment.
And then become alive to what happens after that. Then become alive to what happens that. So while you may be facing, you may have felt very bad here at this point. You'll go through the Sarah cycle of feeling denial, feeling, why is this happening to me, bad luck, and stuff like that. Angry.
Yeah.
But he doesn't talk about resigning to that. In fact, this point to me is about, it's an antidote to resigning to something, or saying this is going to be like this only, right? This is how things work here. Nothing will change. To me, it's an antidote to all of that. He says, yes, today in a conversation with Rajiv, I felt that this is how it is. Okay. Now let's have the next one.
Okay.
Now let's have the next one. Because the truth of what you are, or what you want, or what you're passionate about doesn't change.
Right.
Right? So, it says, you have to read it twice. Like you said, being with the way things are, but not being with the things which were.
Yeah. Live the moment. Exclusive.
You live the moment at the
Not connect the
simplest
dots
level.
between.
Yeah. Absolutely. So at the simplest level, that, and the second, if one wants to extend this a little further, one can say, don't stop trying.
Right. True. You're right. So it's actually very different, right? What you said, that complacency is completely different in the context what he's saying. One needs to read the book to understand this, and this is about living in that day-tight compartment of the day, not worrying about the past and not getting anxious about the future, and then just being there.
Yeah. because he talks about the world of measurement and the universe of possibility, right? So
Yeah,
when you live in the universe of possibility, there is no downward spiral to that, right?
absolutely,
If
absolutely.
if something happens to you, if you're alive to that moment. Okay, let me give an example. I was actually thinking about this, and I thought you'd ask me this trick question. um, so when you all of us have come across a salesperson, right?
Mm, mm,
That's a persona we've all interacted with.
mm.
The best salespeople are
Mm.
full of so much optimism,
Correct.
so much passion, so much belief in what they're selling,
Yeah, yeah.
whether it's an idea, whether it's a product, or there's something. And this aspect of the salesperson doesn't change whether he's with company A or company B or company C. And we say, look, he's a brilliant salesperson. But what
Absolutely.
he is or she is alive to the possibilities of that particular thing that he's selling.
Absolutely. And I'm going to talk about an experience that I had as of day before yesterday, Shachi. And I said, I will talk about this on this chat, the art of possibility. As part of my work as a founder of the organization, I connect with a lot of people and position what I do and explore how we can work with them. And I've been following a lady who's been an inspiration for all of us in India. We have grown listening to her stories. I've been connecting with her on LinkedIn, commenting on multiple posts of hers, and she also has been responding to the general public, not to me personally. And I said, let me write to this lady. And I always wanted, because I always wanted to meet this lady sometime. And I'm born to a civil servant. My father is a retired civil servant. So this lady had inspired me, Miss Kiran Bedi. I said, let me write to her on LinkedIn. I said, ma'am, my name is so and so. I run this company called Leadership Elements, and I would love to explore working with you and your leadership team and building a better Pondicherry. And tell me how would you want to do that? This is what I do. I said, let me connect. You won't believe. 5 दिन के बाद, yesterday I get a mail from her. Hi Rajiv, lovely to hear from you. Thanks for writing in. Please write to my personal mail ID and to my official secretary's mail ID. I would love to explore working with you. Can you believe this? This is beautiful, isn't it? No, for a minute, I can keep all this possibility aside and say, Acha, this was a very salesy pitch that I did to her. ठीक है, you may take it that way, but if there is a possibility there of working with her to help the leadership team or her team in Pondicherry, isn't it a fabulous opportunity for me to do that as
Yeah.
an organization, isn't it? That's exactly out of possibility, right?
And in fact, Rajiv, the Xanders speak about this. When they talk about the universe of possibility, they say that when you live in the universe of possibility, actually you're not a fool. You're not just a believer of the myth of possibility. You actually take more risks, and because you take more risks,
Yeah,
you get better results.
correct, correct,
So
absolutely.
it's sort of a liberating, freeing manifesto. That's the word which keeps coming back to me.
Yeah, yeah,
But, through what they propose in this book, you can free yourselves. You can find an alternative way to be.
yeah, yeah.
You can try that, right? You can live in the universe of possibility. You can take more risks. You can be more positive. You can. They talk about enrolling people into what you're doing. There are very good practices, and your example just talks about that you took a risk because you thought that it was possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I tried it. If it hits the bullseye, good. If it doesn't, okay. How does it matter?
Yeah,
You know, many years back, a great person told me that Rajiv, in life, please understand, other than death, everything there is an alternative. You just have to think and figure it out. Death is the only thing that is
wow,
an
that's
alternative.
nice.
The rest all has. Today, as we're talking, when that thought is just reflecting in my head, it makes so much sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You should, I don't know if you've read this book. You should read this book by Mr. Chandramouli called The Catalyst. Make a note of this. I'll message it to you on WhatsApp. Chandramouli Venkateshan. But I also want to tell you that it's sad that 6th of October he passed away because of pancreatic cancer, and he was an amazing person with multiple books. And this book, Catalyst, a very powerful book, that talks about nothing but possibilities and how, as leader, you can play the role of a catalyst to create those possibilities for organizations and people. Pick up that book and read. It's a lovely one. It's a lovely book. The Catalyst.
I'm sorry to hear about him, Rajiv. Will do.
Yeah. Lovely. Superb. So let me go to the next question. Xander talks about leaders creating frameworks for possibilities. Quickly tell me, what does it mean to you?
Um, so, what does he talk about here? He says that the leader's primary responsibility is to change the frame.
Correct.
Exactly the way we've been talking, right? You leaders have the power to help people look this way or look that way.
Mm.
And if you can just shift their focus or the frame towards possibility, then they can all be successful. And you
Mm.
can be more successful, and the organization can be more successful.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
So that's what he talks about. He says reframe, because very often the business language is a downward spiral. He uses this word downward spiral.
Yeah, yeah.
You keep doing if but analysis, and you just keep going into that. So reframe that into possibility. Ask yourself, what is it that I've not considered? You'll come across many of these coaching questions which you can ask yourself,
Correct, correct. Yeah.
all available. So that's where he is. The other thing that he talks about is that I sort of interpreted it like that. One of the jobs that leaders have is to give
Mm.
hope to people.
Oh.
Yeah. So in one of my previous companies where I was working, there was this term called leader positive.
Mm.
Okay. Yes, there is coronavirus. There is COVID. The world is coming up. We may have this may happen. That may doom is always there, right? Doom has always been there. Think about the caveman,
Yeah,
Rajiv, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
So, like you said, doom about death. Doom is a reality that can happen at any time.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're right, you're right.
But what the leaders do is they inject that positivity, which allows people to live from day to day.
Absolutely. You're right, you're right. You know,
And
I could,
it's not inauthentic, and it's not inauthentic, because if you do it inauthentically, you believe in it, because otherwise your followers will know.
correct, correct. You're right, you're right. In fact, I'm just thinking before I ask you the last question of this conversation is 15th of August, I was tested positive and I was quarantined for 20 days. I read 8 books during that period, right?
Wow.
That was a fabulous opportunity. I mean, I just had Amazon delivering it and more. But कितनी किताब आ गए, रखने को जगह नहीं है. And I was reading. And hope was very important during that time because I didn't want any negative thoughts to come into me at all, right? Though it was just very, very mild, touch and go kind of a thing, symptomatic. When you're talking about hope, Shachi, I'm just thinking, I watched a movie once again during that 15 days of my quarantine after many, many years, which for me stands as one of the best movies of hope, The Castaway
Yes,
of
absolutely.
Tom Hanks. What
Tom
a
Hanks, yeah.
movie on hope, isn't it? 3.5 years at that island, he survives and gets back.
Yeah, a lot of literature on this, right? There's a movie in which I remember there's a guy on the mountain and he survives over 127 days or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
The movie is called, right?
yeah,
Um, and many, many, many stories of Auschwitz,
yeah, 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 yeah.
which are about, Viktor Frankl's
Oh, yeah.
Man's Search for Meaning.
Absolutely. Oh, what else?
Yeah.
Super. So I think Xander also talking about all that, right? That you rightly said, very beautifully said that changing this framework is nothing but creating that hope. कि आपको
Yeah.
यहाँ you're seeing something murky which is little not clear. Look here, I give you a light at the end of the tunnel, right? But for that, it's so important for the leader himself to have that shift in that head of his or hers, right? If that shift is not happening here, it can't happen in your head. I can't translate it from my head to Shachi's head, isn't it?
Yeah.
So right, so right. Superb, yeah, superb. So that brings us to the last question. And tell me, Shachi, with all the years of experience and wisdom that you have garnered and still wanting to be that contribution, to laser sharp advices you will give to the budding leaders of the current world who are on their own journey and a hurry, speed, eagerness to reach where they want to reach. What are those two laser sharp advice from this book to them?
Well, one is one piece of advice that I'd give them would be directly to people whom they'd be leading,
Mm.
you know, And that's certainly the practice of giving an A, which I spoke about, right? Speak to the possibilities in people, see the potential, speak to that. The second advice that I would give them is about the environment around them, right? And that's about the universe of possibility. That's about having that lens. Not only them, but we all need to have that universe, that lens of possibility.
Absolutely.
There is too much fear in the world. We need more creativity. We need to combat fear with creativity.
Absolutely.
There's too much hopelessness. There's too much anxiety and frustration with our, political systems, for example. But unless they can and we can bring forth universal emotions which give life, right? Hope, harmony, wanting to achieve something, right? There's a reason why we cry when somebody breaks an Olympic record, right?
Correct.
That transcends what I want to be. I may want to be a chief executive somewhere, but when I see an Olympic record being broken, it brings forth something. And we need that generative powers within ourselves. So that's my advice to people, that if we need to inspire others, we need to find that wellspring within us.
Absolutely. Beautifully said, especially in these difficult times, or in these unusual times of COVID that we are in post-COVID. The famous statement of with great power comes great responsibility is all the more evident, right? All these young leaders who have that power within themselves have to take that responsibility like the Spider-Man does, and become the neighborhood's friend, right? And just create that possibility for all the people around, right? He or she must be going through all that anxiety, all that confusions in their heads, like we are. But they have to keep it inside the washroom, break their head inside the bathroom against the wall, but come out and create that hospitality kind of a demeanor and be that person for the team, isn't it? It's quite a task, and I think that big responsibility is all about creating those possibilities. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Shachi, for this lovely.
Rajiv, in a sense,
please tell me.
Rajiv, in essence, that's what the Xanders are saying, right?
Absolutely.
They're saying, make a choice. The best piece of feedback that I got was to be clear about what I stand for, right? And through this book, they are saying, make a choice.
Super. Thank you for beautifully articulating the certain essences of this particular book. I would recommend everyone to go and pick up this book and read it, guys. It's a fabulous book. It's not a very fat book. It's got how many number of pages? I think 178, 180 pages. You can finish it off in 2-3 days if you sit in one flow. But a powerful book for all young guys. You've had two people, me and Shachi, who have read this book many years back, and I reread it for this conversation to help all of you guys. Pick up this book, read it. Thank you, Shachi, for coming on. Thank you for narrating the stories. Now I understand why were you given that award as the storyteller.
Rajiv, you're kinder than you need to be. But it was lovely to talk about it. I'm starting my day beautifully now after having spoken about something so positive.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this conversation on leaders and libraries with the Leadership Pyramids. Thank you. You have a lovely day. See you soon.
Thanks, Rajiv. This was fun.
It was fun. Insightful as well.
You are kinder than you need to be. But thank you.
No, definitely. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day ahead and enjoy.
You too, Rajiv. Take care and let me know in any way that I can help you.
Will do.
I am committed to what you're doing.
Will do. Thank you so much. That's a great story.
Take care. Bye-bye.